I turned the key, pushed open the front door and stepped into silence. The lights came alive one by one, bouncing off the fresh paint, the polished floor, the furniture I bought on layaway for months. It should have been loud in here, laughs, footsteps, voices. But the only sound was the hum of the fridge. I had sent the texts. I'd made the calls. Housewarming Saturday night. I'll cook. Come see the place. I pictured them pulling up, maybe even bringing a gift. I'd worked overtime for 2 years eating dollar menu dinners, just to buy this house before I turned 27. I wanted them to be proud. But when I checked my phone, not a single car was coming. The group chat lit up instead. Photos of my sister flashing her new luxury watch. Smiles, captions, a crowd around her wrist. Not a single person here. Not even one excuse. They all chose a piece of jewelry over me. I set the cake on the counter anyway. Chocolate, her favorite. Funny how I still thought of her first. Plates stacked on the table. Music cued on my phone. All dressed up for no one. Then my screen lit up. We need to talk. No. The call buzzed in my hand until it stopped. I leaned against the wall, staring at the empty living room. What did she have to say that she couldn't show me by being here? What else could they take from me? I thought buying this place would prove something. That I'd be more than the kid brother they teased, more than the one who worked weekends while they traveled. I thought walls and a mortgage would make me visible. Instead, I'm standing in a house full of lights with no one to see them. And in that moment I asked myself, have you ever felt invisible in the very family you worked so hard to impress? The phone rang again. Same number. Same word flashing, Mom. I let it buzz out. My hand was shaking, not from anger, but from something colder. Disbelief. I sat on the couch, the one I'd carried up the stairs alone, sweating through my shirt because no one offered to help on moving day. My own family, 30 minutes away, too busy. Yet tonight they all drove across town to admire a wristwatch. When the call stopped, a text came through. Mom, your sister needs help. We'll explain later. Don't overreact. Help. The same word they never used with me. When I was clocking 60 hours a week at the shop, they didn't ask how rent was going. When my car broke down, they didn't ask how I'd get to work. But now she needed help and suddenly I was supposed to answer. I opened the group chat. Picture after picture. My dad with his arm around her, grinning like she'd cured cancer. My brother holding up a toast. My cousins crowding in for selfies. The caption read, "Family first. Always." I laughed. Out loud. Family first. Except me. I thought about picking up the phone. Saying something sharp. But what would that do? They'd label me bitter, jealous, ungrateful. That was the script they always used. So instead I sat back, staring at the ceiling fan. The blade spun slow, steady, calm. And that's when it hit me. Revenge didn't have to be loud. It didn't have to be a fight. I looked around this house. My house. Mine. Paid for in full down payment, scraped together from every overtime shift, every weekend gig. They didn't see it yet, but they would. Because while they were clapping for a watch, I was holding the deed to something that wouldn't tick away in a year. Something solid. I didn't need to argue. I just needed patience. The phone buzzed again, screen lighting the empty room. I let it ring, thinking about how quiet power feels when you stop chasing approval. I whispered to myself, let them come to me. But deep down I already knew, what Mom wanted to talk about would change everything. The third call didn't come from Mom. It came from Dad. His voice cracked through the speaker before I could even decide to hang up. Son, listen, it's about your sister. She's in trouble. We need you to step up. Step up. Those words hit me like a nail in the spine. Step up, as if I hadn't been stepping up since I was 16. Paying my own bills, patching the roof at their house, slipping cash into the grocery jar when Dad's hours were cut. But none of that counted, I guess. Not compared to her. I stayed silent long enough for him to fill the space. She's got a lot on her plate. That watch. She shouldn't have bought it. She's behind on her mortgage, car payments, the whole thing. The bank's been calling. We're trying to keep it quiet. Your mom thought tonight would be a distraction. I nearly laughed. A distraction. Throwing a party while sinking in debt. The perfect daughter showing off a luxury watch she couldn't afford. And here they were, calling me like I was the family's emergency credit card. I finally said, why didn't she just ask me herself? Dad hesitated. She was embarrassed. You know how she is. But we can't let her lose everything. You've always been good with money. Maybe you can help her out. Just until she's steady. Help her out. I looked around my empty house again. The boxes still unpacked. The bills stacked neatly on the counter, already paid. Every dollar accounted for. My life was balanced on sacrifice, while hers spun on impulse. And yet, they expected me to cover her fall. I wanted to scream. Where were you when I was eating canned soup 3 nights a week? Where were you when I walked home in the rain because my car died? But instead I said nothing. Just let his voice trail into silence. He sighed. Think about it. Don't be selfish. We're counting on you. The call ended. I sat there, the weight of their expectations pressing heavier than the roof over my head. And for the first time I wondered, what happens when the family's safety net refuses to catch? That night I couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your own thoughts sound like sirens. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying Dad's words, "Don't be selfish. We're counting on you." Funny how the family never counted on me to celebrate. Only to fix, to patch, to pay. By morning the decision was already made in my chest. I wasn't going to hand over a single dollar. Not because I hated my sister, but because this house was my line in the sand. I bled for it. Nobody was taking it from me. Still, I knew my silence wouldn't last. They'd come knocking. So I started preparing. First step, I gathered my receipts, my bank statements, the contract on the house. Proof that every brick, every nail was mine. I stacked it all neatly in a folder. Because I knew the narrative. If I refused, they'd spin me as the selfish brother, the bitter one. But facts don't lie. Second step, I called an old friend, Mark, who worked at the credit union. We hadn't talked in months, but he picked up right away. I asked a few casual questions about mortgages, refinancing, defaults. He didn't push, but I could hear the curiosity in his voice. I kept it vague. Third step, I walked through every room of my house. The kitchen with its second-hand stove, the living room with the patched-up couch, the bedroom with the thrifted dresser. None of it flashy. But it was mine. I wanted the image burned into my brain in case anyone ever tried to make me forget what I'd built. By the time I finished, my phone lit up again. Group chat. This time it wasn't pictures, it was panic. My sister had missed another payment. The bank sent a letter. Dad wrote, "We'll all pitch in. Family helps family." But the truth was, all didn't mean all. Meant me. Always me. I closed the chat without typing a word. For the first time I felt something close to calm. Because what they didn't know was, I wasn't just ready to say no. I was ready to let the truth speak for itself. The next weekend they finally showed up. No invitations, no warning, just a knock at my brand new door. When I opened it, the whole family stood there like an unannounced parade. Mom's eyes were sharp, Dad's jaw tight, and my sister wore sunglasses big enough to hide behind. "Nice place," Dad muttered, stepping inside without waiting. Mom followed, scanning the walls like she was appraising them. My sister stayed in the doorway, silent, as if the house offended her. I didn't offer coffee. I didn't even smile. I just said, "So, what's the emergency?" Mom got right to it. "Your sister needs help. The bank gave her a deadline. She could lose her house." I leaned against the counter. "And you came here because?" Dad cut in. "Because you're stable. You've always been responsible. We're asking you to cover the payments until she catches up. It's family, son." I almost laughed. The word family felt heavy in the room. It didn't sound like love, it sounded like a bill being handed over. My sister finally spoke, her voice small. "It's just a rough patch. I'll pay you back, I swear." I looked at her watch glinting under the light. Still shining even as her roof slipped away. I thought about all the nights I skipped meals to make sure my own bills were covered. The sacrifices stacked up like bricks in this house. "Why me?" I asked quietly. "Why not sell the watch? Or the car? Why not ask the cousins who toasted with you last week?" Mom's lips pressed thin. "Because they can't. And you can. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." There was the guilt card. The same one they'd played my entire life. I felt the old reflex rising, the urge to cave, to be the dependable one. But then I remembered the empty chairs at my housewarming, the pictures of them smiling without me. I reached for the folder I'd prepared. Laid it on the table. Bank statements. House deed. Proof of every dollar I'd fought for. "This," I said, tapping the folder, "is what responsibility looks like. This is what I built while you weren't looking. And you want me to hand it over because she spent what she didn't have." Silence. My sister's eyes filled, but she didn't speak. Dad's face went red, Mom's hand trembled against her purse. For the first time in years, the weight shifted. The burden wasn't mine anymore. I stood tall in my own kitchen and asked, "When do I get to stop paying for everyone else's choices?" They didn't answer my question. Not really. Instead, Mom sighed like I was being dramatic. "You're overreacting. This is just what families do. We help each other." I shook my head. No. Families celebrate each other too. Remember last week? My housewarming? None of you showed up. You were too busy clapping for a watch. That landed heavier than I expected. My sister dropped her eyes, twisting her fingers together. Dad cleared his throat, defensive. That was poor timing. We didn't mean. But you did, I cut in. You meant every bit of it. You showed me exactly where I stand. The air went still. For once, no one had a quick reply. I let the silence stretch, then slid the folder closer. This house, this life, it wasn't luck. It was nights in a freezing garage fixing old engines for extra cash. It was saying no to vacations, no to dinners out, no to things I wanted. I built something real. You didn't clap for that. But you'll line up at my door to drain it. Mom's voice sharpened. So you're really going to let your sister sink? I'm going to let her learn, I said simply. My sister finally spoke, her voice cracking. I didn't think it would go this far. I thought someone would bail me out before it got serious. There it was, the truth plain and raw. She'd been raised to expect safety nets. I'd been raised to be one. I exhaled slowly. You don't need me to save you. You need to realize no one's going to fix this but you. Dad muttered, that's cold. I looked him in the eye. No. It's honest. For the first time I saw it land. His shoulders sagged. Mom sat down at the table, staring at the folder like it was a foreign object. And my sister, she slipped off the watch. Placed it quietly on the counter. She didn't look at me, but her hands were shaking. I'll sell it, she whispered. Maybe it won't cover everything, but it's a start. That moment told me more than any apology could. She wasn't asking me to fix it anymore. She was finally facing it. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just stepped back, giving her space. Because sometimes the hardest part of growing up is realizing the net isn't under you anymore. And for once, it wasn't under her. They left in silence. No hugs, no promises. Just the sound of the front door clicking shut. I stood in my living room, the echo of their absence louder than any argument. That night, I couldn't shake the image of my sister setting her watch on my counter. For the first time, she had chosen to give something up instead of reaching for more. It wasn't my victory, it was hers. Still, the weight of years sat heavy on my chest. A week later I got another call. This time from Mark at the credit union. Funny thing, he said, almost casual. Your sister stopped by. Asked about restructuring her mortgage. Looked serious. Told me she's selling some stuff to make it work. I leaned back in my chair. That was new. My sister, the one who thought credit cards were free money, finally walking into a bank on her own. Did she mention me? I asked. Mark chuckled. Not once. Looked like she wanted to prove she could do it herself. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt something shift, like the ground between us wasn't so tilted anymore. But the family didn't take it that way. The group chat turned bitter. Mom wrote, "You've changed. You used to care about us. Now you only care about yourself." I stared at the words until they blurred. Then I typed back, slow and steady, "I've cared my whole life. I just stopped being invisible." No one replied. Days passed. My phone stayed quiet. The house felt bigger, emptier, but lighter too. I mowed the lawn on Saturday, grilled a steak on Sunday, paid my bills on Monday. Simple routines, but they felt like mine for once, not borrowed or owed. Then, out of nowhere, an envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a handwritten note in my sister's shaky script. I sold the watch. Covered one payment. It's not much, but it's mine. Thanks for not saving me. I think I needed this more than the money. I sat with that letter for a long time. Folded it carefully and slid it into the same folder that held my receipts and deed. Proof, not of sacrifice but of change. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the family's safety net. I felt like something else. A man who finally drew a line, and kept it. I didn't see them for weeks. No Sunday dinners, no calls, no sudden knocks at my door. The silence, once sharp, softened into something I hadn't felt in years, peace. Most evenings I'd sit on the porch with a glass of iced tea watching the street lamps glow. My house finally felt like a home, not a stage waiting for applause. Then one afternoon a car pulled into the driveway. My sister stepped out, no jewelry, no sunglasses, just her, plain and quiet. She walked up the steps and stopped at the rail. "I wanted you to hear it from me," she said. "I caught up on the mortgage. Sold a few things, cut some expenses. The bank gave me a second chance." I nodded. "That's good." She hesitated, then added, "I didn't come to ask for anything. I came to say, you were right. I thought family meant someone would always fix it. But you showed me I had to fix it myself." Her voice cracked on the last word. I didn't rush to comfort her. I just let her stand in the truth she'd finally chosen. "I don't know if Mom and Dad will ever forgive you," she said softly. "But I think someday they'll understand." I leaned back in my chair. It's not about forgiveness. It's about finally being seen for who I am, not just what I can give. She looked down at her hands, then back at me. "I see it now." For a moment, the years of resentment thinned, replaced by something fragile but real: respect. She turned to leave, pausing at the door of her car. "Thank you for letting me fall." I watched her drive away, the street quiet again. No shouting, no celebration, no grand gesture. Just clarity. Later that night, I opened the folder where I'd kept every piece of proof: my receipts, my deed, her note. I added one more sheet, a blank page with today's date. A marker of the day I finally stopped carrying everyone else's weight. This was my house, my life, my line in the sand. And for once, no one could rewrite the story but me. I closed the folder, turned off the light, and let the silence settle. Because sometimes revenge isn't about payback, it's about refusing to disappear. And in that quiet, I knew my story was finished.